It's not a secret that Africans are leaving Africa in droves, in large numbers, to go to greener pastures. Now, as I was reflecting on this, and I'm also one of them, I always say this, I don't exclude myself in this, but I also have moments of reflection. I take time to think about these things sometimes, and to be honest, some of these things are a cause for concern. And in case you're wondering what I'm on about, I'm talking about the real reason why Africa will remain poor. Of course, we can talk about a lot of things, but when it comes down to it, in the 21st century, this, according to my opinion, this is the real reason why Africa may not develop. Of course, Africa is developing, but we are not developing the way we should be developing, considering the fact that Africa is the richest continent. It's the richest continent. We have all the resources we can ever want, and yet we are failing to exploit those resources. Now, what I'm on about here is brain drain. Brain drain in the 21st century. And I'm going to take a deep dive into the reasons why brain drain is the real reason, or you can call it the number one reason why Zimbabwe or Africa will remain poor. And as I said, I've been looking at some numbers. I've looked at some numbers from different articles, different publications, research results, and I've also been looking at some numbers published by the London School of Economics. They were looking at the number of people who are migrating from Africa, the number of people leaving Africa for the so-called greener pastures. And the numbers I saw are quite shocking, despite the fact that I already know that Africans are leaving Africa to go to other countries to settle there. But the numbers I saw, seeing them in black and white, really made me stop and think. And according to the surveys, most people leaving Africa, unfortunately, have got no intention of going back to Africa. This is the sad part. Now then, why is brain drain a real problem for Africa in the 21st century? And we can even say that it has been a problem for Africa all these years. But in the 21st century, from now going onwards, the era that we're entering, why is it going to be a major downfall for Africa? Now then, the first reason brain drain is a huge problem for Africa is loss of talent. While Zimbabweans are graduating, and I know that Zimbabweans are graduating because I see the ceremonies, the graduation ceremonies, and I also know that Africa as a whole is investing in education. It's educating its people. But how many of those graduating from universities, from those colleges, are actually sticking around? How many of those are sticking around in Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, wherever you are in Africa? How many of our graduates are actually sticking around to use the skills and the knowledge that they've attained from the university to actually use them in Zimbabwe or other countries in Africa? How many of those graduating are sticking around to give back to their countries? That is the question. And of course, as I always say, I'm not excluding myself because I'm one of those people who skipped Zimbabwe. I'm here now in the UK. I came for greener pastures as well. And this continuous movement of African skilled workers from Africa to go to other countries is resulting in a huge knowledge gap because many skilled workers and professionals are skipping borders, as I said, to look for greener pastures. And unfortunately, this is putting Africa at a huge disadvantage. Africa is being depleted of skilled workers every single day. And this is a problem, a huge problem for Africa. And quite frankly, with the way things are going, it doesn't seem like it's going to slow down anytime soon. So something gotta give, because Africa keeps losing its brightest minds. It keeps losing skilled workers left, right, and center. And I get the argument about the people in the diaspora contributing to the economy of Zimbabwe or other African countries through remittances. I get that. But still, these skilled workers and professionals who are crossing borders every single day are needed at home for innovation and finding solutions for homegrown problems. These skilled workers are needed in Africa to solve our problems, African solutions. But unfortunately, if those skilled workers, people who've got the brains, who've got the knowledge, who've got the skills, who know what they're doing, if those people keep skipping borders, then what is going to become of Africa? And also now I understand that some people prefer to call it brain circulation, because the argument is that anyone, regardless of your location, they're saying that anyone in the diaspora can actually contribute to the development of Africa. They can make contributions towards innovation, towards technology, startups, and so forth. And that is true to some extent. It is true. But personally, if you ask me, I think that this is just an excuse that we came up with as Africans to make ourselves feel better about the fact that we have left Africa for other countries and we've got no intentions of going back. This is just my personal opinion. I don't know what you think about this whole situation, this whole issue of brain circulation versus brain drain. The other problem as well when it comes to brain drain, or when it comes to Africans leaving Africa for greener pastures with their skills, is that there is now an over-dependence on overseas solutions. The lack of local skills or local innovation fosters this reliance on overseas technology, or it makes people believe that only overseas technology or only things from overseas are the answer to our problems, when actually Africa or Africans have the capacity to develop their own technology, to come up with their own innovations. Of course, there are times when one needs to go overseas for apprenticeship or to learn certain skills, to then come back home and use those skills and the knowledge to develop our own technology or to develop our own countries. But unfortunately, according to the surveys that I've talked about, most of people leaving don't want to come back. They've got no intention of coming back. Although having said that, despite the numbers, the statistics and the surveys, I've actually seen people going back to Africa. I've seen the news, I've seen the videos. I see people going back and doing great things in Zimbabwe and in Africa in general. And it's not my place to tell people to go back to Africa. That's not why I'm making this video. I'm just making this video for us to reflect on this situation of brain drain. I have got no power whatsoever, and it is not my place to tell people to go back to Africa. I mean, how can I when I'm still here as well? I'm here in the UK. But as I said, I am somebody who likes to reflect. I reflect a lot. And when I see some things, when I listen to the news, I see what's going on, some things make me worry as well, because I am an African and I love Africa, as I always say. I'm passionate about Zimbabwe. I'm passionate about Africa, and Africa is my home. So there's no way that I'm going to forget about Africa. There's no way that I'm going to turn my back on Zimbabwe completely. I won't do that. It's not going to happen. That is why I always talk about Zimbabwe. I always talk about Africa, because Africa is my home. It is my home. So that's why I make this type of videos. The last thing I want to mention when it comes to brain drain and why it is a huge problem for Africa is when those skilled workers leave Africa to go to other countries to seek greener pastures and stay there. There's this disruption that takes place in the development of other skills, because if a skilled person, I'll give an example, let's say a skilled doctor or a skilled technician. If a skilled technician leaves Zimbabwe to go to the UK, US, Canada, wherever they leave to go to, that person or those people leaving Africa are potential mentors for other people. Those skills they have or the knowledge that they possess, they could potentially be passing it on to someone in Zimbabwe or in Africa. But because they are constantly, or we are constantly leaving Africa for greener pastures, there's this disruption that takes place when it comes to development and opportunities for mentorship. The knowledge and the skills are not being passed down from one person to the next, because the skilled workers who are supposed to be mentoring the younger generation are jumping borders to go to other countries. So the younger generation left in Zimbabwe or other countries in Africa are left without mentors, without people to guide them, without people to show them how things are done. There's no one or very few people left to pass on the knowledge to the younger generation. So this is a huge problem for Africa. Now the question is, what is the solution to this problem? What is the solution? Obviously, I know the solution. We all know the solution. The solution is we need to sort ourselves out. But how do we sort ourselves out? That is the question I'm leaving to you.